Well, what's up guys? Thank you for clicking on the video. So in this one, I'm going to do some updates. As I said, I want to kind of continue to take people on the ride with me through some development of basically the small bits and pieces of the Sleepy Eye kit, the tripleds as I tend to call it. Obviously, some people know that I am also developing the round and the owl eye versions just to give people some options. Running into some problems there, but in a previous video I talked about the new stop system, so anybody who has not received their kit yet, I'm going to give you a shipping update. We are almost out of back orders, so that is like a huge deal. Technically speaking, right now I have enough kits to ship the remaining of outstanding orders for at least another day or two. So pretty much we're, after a year, caught up and ready to develop some other things. So we're going to talk about that, and I'm going to kind of show you guys some difficulties, the trials and tribulations. You know, the internet shows everybody success. You know, I did this, great, I did that, great, but nobody ever shows the fails or whatever, you know, the pains along the way. And there are definitely pains. There have been many, but you know, overcoming those issues is always key. So we're going to talk about the stop system, we're going to talk about the rounds, we're going to talk about the bezels. I'm going to show you guys a bunch of things in this video, so stick around. You're watching Knight Drive TV. I always wanted to build fast cars, so self-taught I started with engine swaps, composites in my apartment, to multiple shops, tuning, fabrication, and more. 10 years later, the big time, SEMA, Speed TV, I climbed from nothing, but I lost it all. This is my new ride, Knight Drive TV.
Drivers and drive vets.
Okay, so first and foremost, obviously it's the middle of summer in Las Vegas. That's where I am, here in Las Vegas, Nevada. Some of you guys that call me at 5 a.m., you don't know that obviously, but I call you back always. Yeah, so it's been pretty hot, and with being pretty hot, I have not been able to work in my garage. So one of the first things we did is on the door, as you see back there, Josh assisted me and insulated that entire door with this roll insulation. It creates an air gap. I bought it right here on Amazon. I'm gonna throw it on screen. If any of you guys have non-insulated garage doors, I would suggest that it's made a huge difference. It's literally 100 plus, you know, 110 plus outside. What I've done is insulated both doors. I leave my door open into basically the area where the machines are, and I let the HVAC kind of just come through this door, and I have an in-room air conditioner in here, and it's 73 degrees in here, and it's literally like 100 and something outside. So I would suggest that if you have a non-insulated garage door in cold or heat, I think it's a huge deal. It creates that air gap, and obviously that's very effective. So what that allows me to do is come into the garage a little more often and shoot videos. So first, let me show you the stop update. All right. What you doing, Lace?
Boxing.
Okay, so we have 40 kits about to ship. This is basically June 22nd to July 15th, maybe somewhere around there. And then, sorry about the striping, but then we have another 40 built here, and this will take us to current. All right, let's start with the stops. I'm going to take one from each side. No, I better not. I'll mess Lace up. I took one from this side. So, okay. Here we have the stops. I think the design is complete. These are the stops, and the one unique thing is there is a letter O on one side, and you can see if I take these two, there's no letter O. The letter O is on that side, and so what that means is these are for the outside of the vehicle, but it's very important that we orient them correctly. This side's going towards the front of the car, and as you can see, this indented side goes towards the back. So O, this facing back, this is the passenger side, this is the driver's side, and so they are unique. I had to change them because they were hitting each side at different timings, at different heights. So the slots are at different heights, so it's very critical you know that, but they're ready to go. That saves me from welding these, and this last shipment of these were the worst. I was trying to get these tabs in there. They were just not coming together. It was tough. So thank God I don't have to weld those anymore. All right, so the big celebration, the big event is that for the first time I have more kits than I have orders, and that's good, obviously, in the sense that people won't have a wait. It's bad for me in the sense that I want to kind of know that I'm behind, just because it equals stability for the company. But I have other things coming out, and they're imminent, so I feel good about it. I think it gives me the ability to focus on the new things that are coming out, new designs, bezels, which the rounds are holding up. So let me show you the rounds. I ran into an issue, and if you remember way back to when I introduced the squares, like the prototypes, they were hitting the outside of the headlight cover. They were sitting high, and I lowered them. Well, I was sizing the rounds then, and when I lowered the squares, I didn't realize the rounds were also a little bit higher, so the rounds are hitting, so I'm gonna have to drop the bracket. And that either means I have to change the mount, but that's gonna interfere with the dovetail on the side, so I'm working it out, but I don't wanna have to have a separate bracket for it. I always wanted this modularity, but I'm gonna have to see what I can do. So here, what I was noticing was when I was putting my headlight down, as you can see, I have this, I don't know if you can see this little gap. Let me see if I can focus right there. See that little gap? It's the headlight cover is sticking up, and so it's kind of shrouding this one. So they're gonna have to come down just a wee bit. So we'll see. We'll see. As you can see, also I have Lace's car torn apart. She was running into some issues. So I have a video series I'm going to do. We're just going to kind of do basic mods, lighting, suspension. I got sway bars, Johnny O'Connell stuff. Put tires on it, but I'm definitely going to be making things for these cars. So this is coming. So if you're interested in C6 base, I like the base because it leaves us kind of like a clean slate to do stuff with. And these are cheaper, obviously, with the prices of Corvette going up so much. So we're going to be doing that. Look out for a video on that. Sub to the channel if you haven't, and let me know if you're into the C6 action. I know a lot of guys want to go from C5 to C6.
So the first thing I want to show you here is this is a bezel design of that I kind of applied to a photogrammetry technique. That's why the mesh is kind of broken open. This is a series of pictures you take, and then a computer program kind of creates a mesh and kind of replicates what a 3D scanner does, just doesn't do it as well. As you can see, there's a lot of kind of bumpy surfaces, uneven things, but I was still able to kind of design a bezel at the time and then use form tools in 360 and then thicken it. But it was kind of complicated, and so here I'm going to show you some of the challenges of this bezel.
Let's talk about what I ran into when I designed this bezel. So what I learned from designing this bezel over a year ago has dictated how I'm going to have a bezel designed for the kit right now. So this used like form modeling in Fusion 360. My use of forms and understanding of forms is probably not great, but it's good enough that obviously I designed a bezel, and this is what I will use to design the wide body and things very shortly ahead for the C5 Z06 with the Volk setup. So I did successfully design this. Let me show you some close-ups. But in the close-ups, I'm going to kind of reveal to you kind of the difficulties and things that I'm concerned with, either from a customer perception level of what you may expect in terms of quality, and kind of the challenges I'm facing. Because first, let's start here. Let me give you a close look of the OEM bezel. This is an injection molded ABS bezel, and you'll see the quality of this. Let's go over the quality basically of the surfaces. The thickness is pretty close, as I'm going to show you here. Basically, where things get interesting is when you look at the backside. And so look at the backside here. You can kind of see the smoothness that an injection mold will give you versus some of the kind of artifact that you'll get from 3D printing. And so let me explain to you why that artifact is there, first of all, so you kind of get a better understanding. So I could not print it in an orientation that's normal, sitting like there. What I had to do was tilt this up on an angle so that as the printer head climbed, it basically was always laying layers on top of layers without any support system in here. I needed the underside of this to be smooth, and if I did that from this perspective, it would get pretty messy. The more vertical I go, obviously, it can keep printing on top of each other very accurately, and this gets smooth. So I kind of had to sit it up on this angle. Now, what that means is the printer has to print a bunch of support material in this area here. And that support material, well, actually, it was here. It was under here. And that support material does not come off easy. And that's what leads you to this kind of look that's right here that I'm showing you on screen. So the other issue is this took 37 hours to print. And so that's a problem. 37-hour prints with failures, with power outages, with things like that, when you're talking about not one machine, but 15, 20 machines of however many I've invested, that can be a substantial loss. And so additionally, if you'll notice the size of this printer, that's not going to work. The reason being is I made these on these printers. And even then, they just fit. I had it oriented in a way that was so close to the limits of the plate that it barely fit. So again, the solution is modularity. And so that's where I have to make some decisions. I could definitely 3D print bezels. I don't think there's any questions about that. In terms of customer perception, customers tend to think, I paid $120 for this piece of plastic. That's how people see it. This piece of plastic cost me $120. Well, you know, I mean, in truth, yes, it's a piece of plastic, but you have to think backwards from, like, you know, it's like saying I paid $20 for a plate of spaghetti. I mean, you have to think of what's behind that plate of spaghetti in that particular restaurant that you went to that gave you that plate of spaghetti. What's the atmosphere, the seat you're sitting on? You know, there's a lot that goes into the cost of that plate of spaghetti. So there's a lot that goes into the cost of this bezel. But, you know, you have to understand also that you can't say, I'm going to sell you a $190 plate of spaghetti. You have to get something for that, like a politician or something. You know what I mean? You can't just get spaghetti out of the deal. So I understand that. I can't ask people to pay $200 for a bezel that's just plastic and say, look guys, that's just what it costs. I don't want to do that. I wouldn't want to pay that. And so, you know, if it were carbon, that's a different story. So that's where I'm looking at, okay, number one, do I make this out of carbon? Well, that adds a lot of process in the background for me. It adds a requirement for skilled and trained labor. I have to take a risk on someone, bring them to my house, train them, make a space, expect them to show up, not steal. There's a lot of complexity to that. So that's something that I would probably want to outsource once I have a better prototype. But initially, I want to give somebody something more affordable. So the idea is to make something that is modular, fits the surface of the Prusas, and can give you enough coverage. Now, what that's going to lead to is seams. Now, seams, I don't think seams can be a bad thing because, you know, obviously this is not an aesthetic piece in the sense that you're going to be up close looking at it. As long as it seals off the area, looks clean. Seams, I think, and I hope you agree and leave a comment down below, I think we can get away with seams. Even still, just looking at the size of this and looking at the size of the printer, I can't, you know, within the boundary, I can't get the full width. So it definitely, you know, at minimum, we're talking about making this in a number of different pieces. And if you even start to spread those pieces and arrange them, you know, in different orientations over the plate, I mean, it becomes a creative, you know, it becomes a challenging thing to design in CAD. And so that's what we're going to be doing, though, is we're going to be trying to design something that, obviously, this was difficult to design in some ways because it's multi-planed. And the way that I say that is if you were to make this just a flat piece of paper, it goes this way. The top here is the top here is the top underneath, not here. So if I thicken it this way, then I thicken it this way. Point being, it created a very complex way for me to create this in the computer to kind of work with me on it. So splitting it up has its advantages. So that's what we're going to do. I'm sorry this was long-winded. I'm trying to kind of just, you know, include guys that have a lot of questions, have a lot of interest in this tech stuff. Believe me, editing these videos, just me sitting here talking, thinking about how the hell I'm going to edit all this, this is a day project. just about done editing this video, folks. You know what I mean? Just doing this, talking to you and editing is a one-day project for me out of 7 days in the week. It's a challenge. So let's go ahead and 3D scan the square kit at the current height, the new height with the new stops. This is the key. We're gonna have to spray this with 3D scanning spray. We're gonna have to try and use some tracking dots to give the 3D scanner some reference points to work with, because we don't have much contour and shape. We have a lot of reflective stuff when it comes to the light, so I'm just gonna have to spray these things out. We're gonna have to bring that mesh into Fusion 360 and try and simplify that mesh to where I can work with it. And then we're gonna use form tools, and we're gonna try and create something that is, at least fills the space, and then try and divide that into modules. If I can divide that into modules and create something that fits the space, then we just have to look at flanges and a method for people to basically get this in the mail and maybe do a small assembly procedure, maybe adhesive these couple pieces together to where it creates a nice clean bezel that you can put on your car that doesn't have a lot of this artifact, because I'm not building all these big support systems and prints in a time frame on these that's manageable for me. That's the challenge ahead. So let's go scan the car. Here's my Z06, hasn't moved in quite some time. Very disappointed in that. I would love to drive it. It's just been sitting here being an R&D platform. So we're gonna be using the Shining HD Pro, Einscan, Shining 3D, however you wanna put it. And what this is gonna need in assistance is some E-sub, basically spray. It's, well, you'll see, it's gonna look like I'm spray painting my car. So in addition to that, we're gonna use some tracking markers. So these tracking markers are like little reflectors. This is not the most ideal conditions, and scanning a black car with this particular scanner is very difficult. I probably should upgrade to a laser scanner that incorporates kind of a laser scanning device. This uses multiple cameras and light, so it's challenging. So basically anything that reflects light better is better. Anything that absorbs light, i.e. a black car, is the worst you can do. So that's kind of the difficulty I have scanning my car, but as you'll see, the spray will take care of that. So I'm gonna put some tracking dots. I always try a different process with this scanner to get the best scan data I can possibly get. And I think we're gonna have some difficulty here, mostly because with the headlight up, getting the faces of the lights, which I need in detail, up under the underside, because there's a clip, and then really getting all the detail of the bumper, I'm predicting is probably gonna be a little tough. And it's 112 out, and I really don't wanna sit out here extremely long. It's being like, you know, Death Valley's just that way.
So here began the process of me applying the dots, the reflectors, and basically the scanner likes to have these reflectors about 4 or 5 in a range of, I don't know, 6 inches by 6 inches. So I've experimented with different patterns, but I applied the reflectors, then I attempted a scan, it didn't work. Okay, so it's not picking up the car at all, so I think it's having a difficulty just understanding where it is. So I'm probably gonna have to add some spray to brighten up the car. So then I added a liberal amount of scan spray, kind of updated that twice, and I didn't show myself actually scanning because it takes a lot of focus, and recording and doing all these things makes it more difficult, but inevitably, not much luck. I think it's just too bright out. Probably gonna have to redo this in the evening. You know, this scanner is about $10,000. Not including the PC that it takes to run it, which was, you know, another $5,000. So it's, at the end of the day, I don't think it's Einscan's problem or fault. I think that unit I've gotten some very high quality scans from on red cars and white cars, but it's just my car is black, and it makes it a complete torture session. You know, there's an Einscan HX Pro that uses kind of this grid of lasers. I should have probably just pushed myself to save and get that, but I'm here now. So okay, so we have the insulated garage door shut. I'm gonna make another attempt here to try, because there's less light. Hopefully the projection
from the 3D scanner is better, or it gets a better return. I don't know. Okay, so we've got a pretty good mesh output here. As you can see, I had a little bit of artifact, you know, on the mesh, just in this area right here, a little bit of inaccuracy, but I mean, you can see the surface. I mean, it's picking up even the dots off the surface, and obviously those dots are not very thick, so the screw detail, which is what we need, obviously these curvatures, and you know, what's important is I need to be able to meet kind of where the bottoms of the lights are, and you know, I'm not able to scan those, so this is where the trial and error of kind of getting everything to fit and work comes into play. But I mean, I have a mesh that's good enough here. Shot it in the garage with the lights down a little bit, and it definitely paid off. So, you know, I have kind of some lights shut off. The cameras on the 3D scanner were much more able to see all the detail. And so now I'm going to do another one, and what I'm thinking is I'm going to take off the cover and I'm going to scan over, and then hopefully I can get some backside of this for something else that I'm making. Some of you may have seen. I need a little bit of curvature data, and I need this to be cleaner. So I'm going to take this off and I'm going to try and rescan this, and that will give me more of the lights. And then I'm thinking I'm going to scan the headlight cover by itself. That way maybe I can model this in CAD and kind of sit it onto the mesh, something like that. And then maybe have a secondary plan, but that's what I'm going to do next. All right, we're going to go ahead and take this off. The good thing with the door, the garage door shut, is this coating. The scan spray evaporates at a slower rate because it's like air is not blowing across it from having the door open. So it's kind of helping me, I think. So what I've been using on this particular configuration is features. I've never had much luck with markers, at least with these markers. I don't know if maybe if I had bigger, more reflective markers, it may help. The hybrid, I've also, just in what I'm doing here, I've not had much luck. So features, I mean, seems to always work the best in the right lighting and a lot of scan spray. I use medium detail, which is 0.5 millimeter of accuracy. Non-texture, obviously, I don't have the texture camera. And so this is the preview mode. I'm setting my brightness here, my exposure level, data nicely. Okay, so we were kind of at the limits here, but I feel like I have good edge detail. I do have a bit of a rollover. I'm not going to get that edge. I would have to probably take the bumper off. So I think I have enough. So there you go. You see what I have here. Pretty smooth. And so it's good. We're going to take it over into CAD, simplify it, and go from there.
So we've brought it over into Fusion 360, and I'm going to kind of orient it right. When it's imported, I make my classic mistake. I imported wrong, and it's fumbling around a little awkward, but I pick it up here in a second, kind of get it aligned. I grab the inspection tool, and immediately I'm going to want to be sure, because I've obviously learned the hard way, that everything's scaled properly. Here you can see it's like 638 millimeters between those distances, which is 25 inches. So we got to do it over. So we get that reoriented there, and now I'm going to double check, and we are good to go now with accurate measurements. So I'm going to pull out the form tools. We're going to use box mode and curve mode, but you can see after about 35-45 minutes, I have kind of a basic thing going on here. And so let me go ahead and switch over to curve mode, because you're like, what is that? And there we go. We've got something that is a little more aesthetically pleasing, but you can see I'm not going to actually show you what I'm going to make. This is kind of an example. I don't want to kind of let anything out, but this kind of hints at what I'm going to do.
Okay guys, so I hope you enjoyed that, and basically, yeah, I got some ideas, I got some things coming. So you know, if you're still watching the video, of course I'm going to start rewarding people that actually make it to the end. So basically the round lights, I'm going to do a little tweaking like I talked about, but my plan is to open a buy window August 10th, tentatively, but August 10th for 2 hours. I will tell you that time in an upcoming video towards the end. And then when the main video comes out that basically releases them, shows them mounted, things like that, then I will announce in there a time, but it will be after August 10th. So sorry to make it a pain, but you know what I mean? People message me and they're like, man, send me a message, call me. You know, I can't do that. It's too difficult to keep track of people as it is. So, so that's what I'm going to try to do. So let's just go with August 10th. Tentatively, I'm going to announce in the next video a 1 or 2 hour window. I will make it sometime in the evening probably where everybody can access. So if you really want to get to the front of the line, that's going to be the way to do it. And so I hope you enjoyed the video and all the design stuff. Please let me know in the comments if you guys enjoy this. And that's about it. So we'll get back to work and I will post another video on all this as soon as I can, but I got ZR1 stuff coming also. C4 ZR1.